To the First Financial Bankshares annual meeting. As chairman of the board of directors, it's my pleasure to preside over today's meeting. Today marks the 43rd annual meeting of shareholders since this company was organized as a multi-bank holding company in 1973. And of course, as you'll remember, we're 126 years old, so we've been around a long time. As always, we are honored to have so many of our stockholders attend this meeting, and especially we have a lot of officers and employees here, which I'm excited about. Your interest and dedication to our company is very gratifying to us. Your continuous support is very much appreciated. And the support of this crowd right here means a lot to us. As set out in the proxy statement dated March 1st, 2016, our directors, Tucker Bridwell and David Copeland, are serving as proxies and are authorized to vote in accordance with your proxy, which was completed and returned by mail, computer, or in person. Otherwise, proxies received prior to the meeting will be voted in accordance with instructions contained in the proxy statement. If you have revoked your proxy prior to the meeting, or if you're voting today at this meeting, please mark your proxy, raise your hand, and we'll collect your proxy cards at this time to submit them to Mr. Copeland and Mr. Bridwell to tabulate these votes with the proxies previously received. Anybody have their proxies? Right there. If we can pick that one up. We've got one. Okay. There we go. Thank you, Stephen, for doing that. While Mr. Copeland and Mr. Bridwell tabulate the number of shares represented either in person or by proxy, I'd like to introduce our senior management, who truly are the ones who lead this company. I would ask each one to stand and remain standing to be recognized as a group. And I'd ask for you to pay particular attention to the experience level of each one of these professionals as we go through these slides. Of course, Scott Deeser, Chairman of the Board, President, and Chief Executive Officer. Ron Butler, Executive Vice President, Chief Administrative Officer, and also CEO of our Abilene region. Troy Four, President, First Financial Mortgage. Gary Gregg, Executive Vice President, Lending. Bruce Hildebrand, CPA, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of the company. Luke Longhofer, Executive Vice President, Lending. Stan Limerick, Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer. Randy Rowe, Executive Vice President and Chief Risk Officer. Kirk Thaxton, President of First Financial Trust and Asset Management Company. Marna Yergin, Executive Vice President, Lending in our East Banks. Brandon Harris, Senior Vice President, Appraisal Services. Monica Houston, Senior Vice President, Training. Larry Kentz, Senior Vice President and Compliance Officer. Michelle Stevens, Senior Vice President, Advertising and Marketing. Marilyn Shedd, President of our Abilene region. Mike Malden, Chairman, President, and CEO, Hereford. Mike Boyd, Chairman, President, and CEO of San Angelo. Tom O'Neill, Chairman, President, and CEO of Cleburne. Trent Swearingen, Chairman, President, and CEO, Stephenville. Jay Gibbs, Chairman, President, and CEO, Weatherford. Mark Jones, Chairman, President, CEO, Southlake Region. Ken Williamson, Chairman, President, and CEO of our Mineral Wells Region. Stephen Lee, President and CEO, Southeast Region. Sam Baker, Chairman, President, and CEO of our Conroe Region. And Martin Noto, President and CEO of our newest region, Fort Worth. Ladies and gentlemen, the performance of the company just doesn't happen. It's because of this very capable team of bankers who are dedicated to our customers and to you every day of their lives and utilize their knowledge and expertise to run their portion of the company and do it very well. There is no way that I can appreciate them enough for the job that they do in making our bank one of the top banks in the country. But I do think a big round of applause is entirely in order. Each of our bank regions, as well as our trust and technology companies, are guided by very, very capable boards. Altogether, we have 108 business and professional leaders, other than bank presidents and company representatives, who serve our 11 regions and our trust and technology companies. As we say, our boards are made up of the movers and shakers of the communities that we serve. Their guidance and counsel is greatly appreciated, and their influence in the markets we serve is vital to the ongoing success of this organization. Numerous board members are in the audience today, and I respectfully request that those in the audience stand and be recognized. All our board members, please stand. For the past 14 fiscal years, the accounting firm Ernst & Young, LLP, has performed the audit of our company. We appreciate their professionalism, and we are pleased to have a representative from the firm with us this morning. Andrew Shinaka, a manager with the firm. Andrew, where are you? Right over there. And Andrew's here to answer any questions that you want to ask. Thank you, Andrew, for being here. It appears that the shares represented today have now been accounted for. Therefore, we'll move along with today's official business. In accordance with the annual meeting notice and the proxy materials that were mailed to all shareholders, there are 3 items that require official vote of shareholders. These were covered in detail in the proxy materials. However, as we present these items, if any of you should have any questions, please raise your hand or stand as we will respond to the best of our ability. Mr. Copeland and Mr. Bridwell, have you tabulated the votes? Thank you. Mr. Copeland, will you please give us the number of shares that are represented by proxy and the number represented in person?
Those represented in person, 0. Those represented by proxy, 57,024,462 shares. This represents 86.4% of the outstanding shares.
That is outstanding. I don't think there's another company that has 86% of their stockholders vote. And that says a lot about your support of us. The number of shares represented constitutes a quorum. Therefore, this meeting is properly and duly convened. That being the case, it is our standard procedure not to read the minutes of last year's meeting. Mr. Bruce Hildebrand has in hand the minutes of that meeting, which was held on April 28, 2015. That meeting had 5 official items of business, those being the election of directors, the ratification and appointment of the independent auditors, the advisory vote on compensation for our named executives, the approval of a restricted stock plan for selected employees, officers, non-employee, directors, and consultants, the amendment to the amended and restated certificate of formation to increase the number of authorized shares to 120 million. All 5 items were approved by the shareholders. As set out in the proxy statement dated March 1st, 2016, we have only 3 official items of business for this meeting. The first item is the election of directors to serve on the corporate board for the coming year. As stated in the meeting notice and the proxy statement, the Nominating Corporate Governance Committee and the Board of Directors have recommended that 11 directors be elected, all of whom are currently serving as board members today. I would ask that each nominee stand and remain standing as each are introduced. The nominees and their primary businesses are as follows: April Anthony of Dallas, CEO of Encompass Home Health and Hospice and Home Care Home Base. Stephen L. Bill of Brownwood, Director, former President and Chief Operating Officer of Concho Resources, Inc. Tucker S. Bridwell, President of Mansfeld Investment Corporation. David Copeland, CPA, President of SIPCO, Inc. and the Shelton Family Foundation. F. Scott Deeser, Chairman of the Board, President and Chief Executive Officer of First Financial Bankshares. Murray Edwards, the Principal of the Edwards Group. Ron Gideons of San Angelo, owner of G&G Investments and former President of Bank of the West, San Angelo. Tim Lancaster of Abilene, President and CEO of Hendrick Health System. Cade Matthews of Amarillo, Ranching and Investments. Ross H. Smith, Jr. of Orange, Chairman and President of Acrotex, Inc. And Johnny E. Trotter of Hereford, President and CEO of Livestock Investors Limited. This is the recommended slate of directors for the coming year. Mr. Copeland, please give us the tabulation of the votes.
No director received less than 99.8% share vote for.
That's extremely good. Thank you, Mr. Copeland. With these votes, these 11 directors are duly elected, and we appreciate each one of you. The second item of business is to ratify the Audit Committee of the Board of Directors' appointment of Ernst & Young, LLP, as independent auditors for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016. Now, Andrew, are you nervous? You may not have a job for the next year. As noted in the meeting notice and the proxy statement, the Board of Directors has recommended the appointment of Ernst & Young, LLP, be ratified. Mr. Copeland, the totals in that regard.
Total of 99% of the shares voted in favor of ratification.
All right. Andrew, you have a job for the next year. I don't think he was worried, nor I was worried. The third and last item of business is the advisory vote on compensation of our named executive officers. Pursuant to Securities and Exchange Commission rules, we're again conducting a shareholder advisory vote referred to as Say on Pay, to give shareholders the opportunity to express their views on compensation of our named executive officers and the executive compensation philosophy, policies, programs described in the proxy statement. As noted in the meeting notice and the proxy statement, the Board of Directors recommends approval of the resolution approving the compensation of named executive officers. Mr. Copeland, the totals in this regard.
97.4% of the shares voted in favor of approving the compensation.
Thank you, and that's a majority, and the advisory resolution is approved, and the rest of us have jobs for the coming year. This concludes the official business, and we appreciate the strong approval of these three items. Now, Bruce Hildebrand will present the financial results, and Kirk Thaxton will discuss trust highlights and activities. Then it'll be my pleasure to present the 2015 and current activities of the company. Bruce?
Thank you, Scott. I'm very pleased to be with everyone again this year and to present our financials for 2015 and the first quarter of 2016. 2015 was indeed a very good year for First Financial, especially considering the continuing low rate environment we're in, the challenges from depressed oil and gas prices, and the burdensome and costly regulatory demands our banking industry faces. 2015 marked our 29th year of consecutive increased earnings. And let's take a look at those earnings first. Net income of $100.4 million compared to $89.6 million for 2014, representing a 12.1% increase. Very proud to cross the 100 million mark in 2015 for the first time. Our acquisition of First Bank in Conroe on July 1st, 2015 contributed greatly to our increased loans, deposits, and net income, and we expect this acquisition will be a very positive contribution going forward in 2016 and future years. Our growth in average earning assets of over $757 million, or 14.9%, was the primary reason for the increased net interest income of $23 million, or 11.9%. The Conroe acquisition was the primary reason for this earning asset growth. Double-digit increases in our real estate mortgage fees and debit card fees also contributed greatly to our strong net income in 2015. On June the 1st, 2015, we completed the asset acquisition of Fortrust Mortgage, which contributed significantly to the growth in real estate mortgage fees, and we believe should almost double our mortgage loan originations in the future. Trust income was solid again in 2015, increasing $486,000, despite the significant decrease in fees related to oil and gas prices. Kirk will address these in a few minutes. Basic earnings per share was $1.55 for 2015 compared to $1.40 for 2014, reflecting a similar percentage increase. Our efficiency ratio is a performance indicator that represents the ratio of non-interest expense to total revenue less interest expense, and is viewed as a key measure in determining how we manage our non-interest expense. In simple terms, it's how many cents of overhead does it take our company to make a dollar. The lower the ratio, the better. In 2015, our ratio was 47.61 compared to 49.24 in 2014. Our ratio compares very favorably to the Federal Reserve Bank peer group average of 63.87%. This Federal Reserve peer group consists of 142 bank holding companies throughout the United States in the $3 to $10 billion range, and puts us in the 93rd percentile of that group. In 2015, our net interest margin was again under strong pressure as interest rates have continued at record lows. The Federal Reserve increased rates in December by 25 basis points, but is still very uncertain as to what it will do in the future. Our net interest margin was 4.12 for 2015 compared to 4.20 in 2014, which puts us in the 84th percentile of our peer group. We work very hard each day to maximize the investment in our liquid assets and to grow our loans and maintain our loan rates. Our margin was 4.15 for the first quarter of 2016. Return on average assets is another key measure of our financial performance. This is net income as a percentage of average assets and was at 1.61 for 2015 and places us compared to our peer group of 0.97 and puts us in the 93rd percentile of this peer group. Another important measure for our shareholders is return on equity, which is net income as a percentage of average stockholders' equity. 13.60 for 2015 and puts us in the 94th percentile of our peer group. This ROE is especially strong when you consider our high levels of capital, as illustrated on the next slide. The four primary ratios followed by our regulators are shown here. As you can see, our capital ratios are over double the required level to meet the requirements of Basel III for 2016. Our shareholders' capital at March 31, 2016 totaled $839 million, and our tangible capital was $694 million. From a balance sheet perspective, we had total assets at year-end of $6.67 billion. Our growth in 2015 of $816 million was primarily from our Conroe acquisition, but we had solid growth from several of our regions. Abilene grew $333 million, San Angelo $39 million, and Weatherford grew $38 million. Since year-end, we have seen our growth in assets, loans, and deposits slow down somewhat from the decreased cash flow caused by the low oil and gas prices. Loans totaled $3.35 billion at the end of 2015 compared to $2.94 billion at the end of 2014, an increase of 13.4%. Excluding the Conroe acquisition, our loans increased 4.8% over the prior year. We stood at a loan-to-deposit ratio of 64.6% at December 31, 2015. And while we're working to increase our loans, we will not sacrifice credit for the sake of loan growth. As can be seen here on credit quality, our non-performing assets as a percentage of loans and foreclosed assets totaled 29.8% or 0.89%. We still fare extremely well to our peer group of 1.29% and placing us in the 66th percentile. Our total deposits increased to 5.19%, up 9.2% over 2014%. $343 million of that came from the Conroe acquisition. Our non-interest-bearing deposit remained strong at $1.75 billion, 33.6% of our deposits, which has a very positive effect on our margin and our profitability. Now let me briefly highlight our first quarter numbers that were released to the public last Thursday, April 21st. Net earnings of $25.7 million compared to $24.0 for first quarter 2015, a 7.1% increase. Contributing to a solid first quarter was a continuing strong net interest income from growth in earning assets of $559 million compared to the prior year. The Conroe acquisition again contributed to this growth. Our service charge income increased $645,000, and our debit card fee income increased $711,000, also contributing to this increase in net income. Earnings per share were 39 cents for the first quarter of 2016 compared to 37 cents for 2015. This concludes my review of 2015 in the first quarter, and I'll turn it over to Kirk, who will review our trust company. Thank you.
Good morning. 2015 was a challenging year for the trust company due to the drop in oil and gas prices as well as a flat stock market. In light of these challenges, First Financial Trust and Asset Management Company achieved outstanding results. One of our significant achievements in 2015 was surpassing the $3 billion mark in book value of assets under management. Our total assets increased $286 million to finish the year with a book value of $3.06 billion, an increase of 10.3%. The market value of our assets under management had a modest increase, finishing the year at $3.87 billion, an increase of $110 million or 2.9%. Our earnings growth was significantly impacted by lower oil and gas prices. Our revenue from our mineral management totaled $2 million in 2015 compared to $3.15 million in 2014, a reduction of $1.15 million or 36.4%. However, in spite of this drop in revenue, we were able to increase total trust fee revenue and net income. Our total trust fee revenue increased $480,000 or 2.6% from $18.77 million in 2014 to $19.25 million in 2015. Our after-tax net income contribution to First Financial Bankshares increased $340,000, or 4.78%, from $7.11 million in 2014 to $7.45 million in 2015. All of our offices experienced earnings growth, led by our Fort Worth office, which had an increase of 24%, and our Stephenville office, which had an increase of almost 11%. Also of significance, our Beaumont office is now profitable. The equity markets were volatile in 2015, ending relatively flat for the year. In light of this volatility, our investment team continues to produce outstanding results. Our equity income portfolio continues to lead the way with a 7-year annualized return of 14.28%, which is 192 basis points per year higher than the Lipper Equity Income Benchmark. Our portfolio managers, led by Chris Montoya, currently manage approximately $1.2 billion in equity assets, utilizing 5 different equity styles, which allow us to provide the appropriate equity strategy to meet each customer's needs and risk tolerance. Bill Rowe continues to do an excellent job of managing our bond portfolios and currently manages approximately $1.2 billion in fixed income assets. With interest rates continuing to remain at all-time lows, Bill has produced outstanding long-term results and continues to outperform the benchmarks for taxable and tax-free portfolios. I'm also pleased to announce that we continue to have significant growth in our newest markets, Beaumont and Lubbock. Since opening our Beaumont location in September of 2013, we grew to over $92 million in assets under management at year-end. Our newest market in Lubbock now has almost $13 million in assets under management. And as you can see from the slide, we have an impressive footprint covering the state. The leadership of our board of directors continues to be one of our greatest assets. At this time, I would like to recognize our board. I would ask each of you to please stand and remain standing to be recognized as a group. Dave Copeland, Scott Deeser, and John Beckham from Abilene, Jay Lawrence from Sweetwater, David Lupton from San Angelo, Sarah Campbell from Austin, Walter Riddle from Orange, Bill Parham from Stephenville, and Dr. Michael Owen from Lubbock. We have an outstanding board, and we greatly appreciate their leadership. As I mentioned previously, the price of oil will continue to impact us in 2015 and has done so during the first quarter. Our revenue from our oil and gas services was down $285,000 compared to the first quarter of 2015. This, coupled with a volatile stock market, has resulted in a modest decrease in our overall revenue of $76,000 compared to the first quarter of 2015. The growth of our assets under management continues to be a highlight for us. The book value of our managed assets has increased over $150 million since year-end, and the market value of our assets has now surpassed the $4 billion mark, totaling $4.01 billion as of March 31st. One of our many strengths continues to be our people. We have an outstanding team of talented and experienced professionals. Our experience in investments, mineral management, property management, wind energy, and trust and estate administration allows us to help our clients grow their wealth over generations. We look forward to the opportunity to work with you and your family for generations to come. Thank you for your attention this morning, and I'll return the podium to Scott.
Thank you, Bruce and Kirk. Your reports certainly reflect the ongoing strength of our organization and good prospects for the coming year. Well, this is the fun part. This is where we get to talk about what's really going on in the company and impart to you some of the things that we're doing. You know, I know you see press releases and things that we're doing and you go, why are they doing that? And so this is the part that we kind of connect the dots for you. And so that's the fun part. Of course, the last year, we were selected as number 2 bank in the country. In the last 7 years, we have been selected as number 1, number 2, or number 3 in the country. There is no other bank in the nation that's been in the top 3 positions 7 years in a row, which says a lot. And we hope we can continue to stay there. And I will tell you, this just doesn't happen. It happens by the hard work and dedication of our board, our officers, and our employees, and the support that you give us every day to be number 1, number 2, or number 3 in the nation. One of the other things we're very excited about is our work in stopping financial exploitation. In fact, we have one of the top financial exploitation programs in the nation, and we've been recognized for that. And I'll talk about the recognitions that we've had, but what's interesting is it's not the recognitions that we're proud of. Thank y'all. Y'all are doing a great job, because it's hard to follow me because I'm walking around. But it's the fact that we saved $1 million last year of our customers' money by stopping fraud. In many of those cases, we were able to get the fraudsters arrested. And it's because our people have dedicated themselves to learning about financial exploitation, how to detect it, how to stop it, and how to get the people arrested. And it's exciting what the program's doing. I'm going to talk more about it at lunch because we're going to ask you to help us. Financial exploitation can be stopped by education. That's what's so exciting about what we're doing is we're stopping it. In fact, I truly believe that a lot of fraudsters today know you better not mess with somebody from First Financial because you're going to get arrested, and it makes a difference. So in many ways, we're protecting our customers in ways we have no idea. But because of this program, the ABA Foundation, which is the American Bankers Association Foundation, gave us the Community Commitment Award in November, a very outstanding national award for our work in financial exploitation. Next month, the Texas Bankers Association is giving us the 2016 Leaders in Financial Education Award at the TBA convention because of our education that we've done in the public and our customers to fight financial exploitation. Last July, I was able to speak at the White House Conference of Aging with the President, and it was an outstanding event. You know, it's interesting, what I love is to see Democrats and Republicans coming together for a common cause. You don't see that in many cases today, but they all realize that financial exploitation is extremely serious. In fact, it's epidemic. Last year, over $3 billion were lost, and primarily from our elderly population. Marilyn Shedd in November went to Washington and was a speaker at the AARP roundtable discussion. Then, in January, she went to the Texas State Senate Committee and talked about financial exploitation. And then Michelle Stevens, in March, went to the House Investments and Financial Services Committee. So as you can see, we're the go-to bank for information because we've made this such an important event. And as I say, I'll talk about it more at lunch. You know, to have the 29th consecutive year of increased earnings was a big deal. And the bigger deal was to pass the $100 million mark. But when you look that 5 years ago we were at 60 million and now we're at 100 million, this is what's important. We've got to keep growing this, and we've got to keep going. And that's what you'll see in the next couple of slides, things that we're doing to improve. You know, I talked several years ago about, yes, one of these days we're going to be at the $10 billion mark. And when you get to that mark, your cost goes up considerably because of the way the government has it structured. And your compliance cost goes up. You're under a lot more scrutiny. And so we're preparing to get to that $10 billion mark because we'll make it one of these days. and probably sooner than later. So a lot of the things that we're doing today are improving and getting us to that point that we are ready for that way of life. And one of the things, of course, that we've done that added certainly to our assets was the purchase of First Bank Conroe in July of last year. Very good purchase. We couldn't be more pleased with the team from Conroe. They just came into our company, just were part of the family day one, and we were extremely pleased to pick up branches in Montgomery, Walker, and Harris counties, which are some of the top growing counties in Texas, which is neat. 8 branches in Conroe, Magnolia, Tomball, Cut and Shoot, Montgomery, and Huntsville. We have closed the Huntsville branch because it's so close to our other one, which helped us cut some expenses and really better serve our customers. We have a great site in Spring, Texas on the Grand Parkway that we hope to build on in the near future. And so things in that quadrant north of Houston are going very well. And so I'll show you that in a minute. We'll talk about our footprint. But we're really excited. Sam Baker, who is our president in Conroe, is just a great management person. You know, our philosophy is to buy good banks that have good earnings with good boards, good management, and are doing a great job. All we want to do is go in and enhance that bank. You know, you see a lot of banks that go in and buy bad banks. I don't think we do very good about buying bad banks because we've never had a bad bank before. So we just go buy good banks. And then the purchase of ForTrust Mortgage in May of last year, we were very excited about that because we needed to strengthen our mortgage, especially in the Metroplex area. Troy Four and his team, Tammy Harding, Cammie Graves, and Ryan Craig, great team that came over to us. We've been trying to get Troy Four to come to our company for many years because he ran and runs one of the best mortgage companies in Fort Worth and Dallas. And he also has over 30 years experience in mortgage, 15 running his own company. But they've been doing about $175 million of mortgages. We do about $225 million. Today, in the coming year, we hope to exceed $400 million in mortgages. And that's a big deal. Mortgage is an extremely important service because when you do somebody's mortgage, they move all the rest of their business with you. It's such a big transaction, and it's a hard transaction today. There is a lot of compliance that goes along with mortgage. If you've closed a mortgage loan lately, the stack is about this thick. And of course, we're excited because Troy came over and he's now president of our mortgage division. And so that's an important part. And I'm going to talk about how we have backfilled some positions in our company in a few minutes. But we're really excited about having the ForTrust team part of First Financial Bankshares and First Financial Bank. Here's our footprint, you know, and you can see Conroe and how it goes north of Houston. Of course, our philosophy, and what's interesting is our philosophy is so different from most Texas banks because they all want to be in the big city. We don't want to be in the big city. We want to be around the big city because when you're in the big city, you're fighting the big boys. And, you know, we'd be dropping the bucket in Dallas or Houston. So why go fight a battle that you can't fight? We would much rather we're country bankers, we're community bankers, and so we much rather be in the communities around the big city where you get the growth factor coming off the big city, but you don't have to go fight the big boys and you're not the drop in the bucket. We're the big fish in the little pond, and we like that, and it's worked for us over and over again. So you see, we go from Hereford, from one end of the state, you know, we have a trust office in Lubbock, Midland, or Odessa, where we have trust in banking, San Angelo, Abilene, Sweetwater, and then along I-20. We love that I-20 corridor because you get a lot of business off that I-20 corridor. There's lots of commerce there. Then around Fort Worth and Dallas, again, that growth factor where you're getting the growth, but you're not fighting the big boys. You go down Huntsville, we've started, in Conroe, we've started going around Houston now. Again, in those smaller towns, high growth area, and then Orange, Beaumont, in those areas along the coast and right next to Louisiana. So we go from one border to the other, which there's a lot of space in between, but we're very pleased with our footprint. What I love about our footprint more than anything else is the diversification, because all of these economies are different. Each bank is very different. It has its own personality because its personality meets the personality of the community. I love it. I was in Hereford last week. There's probably more Spanish spoken in Hereford, Texas, in our bank than English, but we meet the customer's needs and we fit that community. It is a great community. We had a stockholders meeting or reception for our stockholders up there, and we have a large number of stockholders in Hereford, Texas, and they all come. We do evening reception. They really don't care about what I have to say. They just like to visit. I get up and make a few comments and tell them about the bank, but those that really wanted to know are here today. The rest of them, they just like to hear the short story of what we're doing. But that's what I like about our footprint, from cattle to the refining of oil and gas on the other side of the state, and very different. So when one of the areas is up, we might have another area down. But that's one of the reasons our earnings are so consistent, is because of that diversification. And we like that. And we'll continue to look at that as we look at acquisitions. Here's our Fort Worth ranch that will open next week. This is where Troy will be. This is where Martin will be, and our teams. The first floor is going to be retail and lending. Second floor is going to be trust. Third floor is going to be mortgage. And fourth floor is going to be leased. So we're really excited about getting into this building. We have our team broken up across Fort Worth today in different office buildings, and so it's going to be great to have everybody there. One of the reasons that you can say, well, Scott, you said, hey, you don't want to be in the big city. Well, Fort Worth is still a small town to us, and it has that atmosphere. But one of the things that I think is important with our Fort Worth location is that our customers have continued to ask, we want a branch in Fort Worth. Why? It's because most of them work in Fort Worth. Those people that live in those areas around Fort Worth where we have banks, they work in Fort Worth, but they live in Weatherford or they live in Granbury. And so now they'll have a branch, even though we've had a branch there, but it's been on the third floor of a building and without an ATM. Now we'll have a full service location for our customers to use. As they leave work in Fort Worth, they can stop by the bank. And as you can see, the location is outstanding. One block off of 121 and 30 and one block back on. So it's going to be great for all of our customers in that area. And I think this branch will really get used. We've also put a Fort Worth Advisory Board of Directors together, and I want to talk about them. Murray Edwards so graciously agreed to be chairman of this board. Murray has a condo in Fort Worth, and so he's going to guide and direct this board, and we're really excited about having one of our board of directors from First Financial Bankshares as chairman of this board. We have Larry Anfin on this board with K&L Enterprises, Inc. Larry was a Coors distributor in Fort Worth for many years, and he is just an outstanding civic leader in Fort Worth. We have Smith Brownlee, who's here. Smith is a CPA with the firm Brownlee and Braden, and we're really excited about having Smith on the board. Of course, Ron Butler, as you all know, Mary Lee Cruz, eSource, and she deals in food service equipment. That's a food service equipment company, a very interesting company. Stephen Kimmel, who many of you know because Stephen was CFO of Hendrick Medical Center here. We're very excited about having Stephen. Stephen's CFO of Cook's Children's Health System, and somebody that knows us well, and we're excited about having Stephen on. Matt Morris, president of Gus Bates Insurance, one of the top insurance companies in Fort Worth. What's fun about having Matt on the board was he was a football star at Hardin-Simmons University. So he knows Abilene well, and he's excited about coming on. And he also lives in Aledo. Martin Noto, our president of the Fort Worth region, and I'm going to talk about Martin a little more in just a minute. Paul Poston, president of Wellington Insurance Group. Paul brings that experience in the insurance business to us, and we're excited about that. And then George Robertson, president of and CEO of eMist. George has been in the hospice business. He's been in the healthcare business. He's sold those businesses. In fact, he's the person that's going to be taking our 4th floor in this new building. So we're really excited about having George. So we're excited about this new board, and we think they will help us a lot in Fort Worth because we will be a player in Fort Worth, let me tell you, and excited about that. Okay, let's talk about what's going on around. This is our new Cisco location, and we've needed this. If you remember when we went into Cisco, we bought a video store for about $30,000 and remodeled it as a bank. And the ATM in front of the bank cost more than the bank did. So now Cisco needs a new building. And so this, if you've seen the Albany building, and this is what it's going to look like. It'll look just like the Albany building. We're really excited about having this. It'll open in June of this year. And so Cisco will have a brand new state-of-the-art building, which they need. And then we have Odessa. This is the construction going on in Odessa. We need this facility. Barbara Hill really would rather stay where she is today. Wouldn't you, Barbara? Yeah, I knew that. We are in a shopping center today without an ATM. She's got her trust office there. We've got her bank there. It is not the best location, and we've done pretty well, to say the least, in that location. But this will be the new location. This is what it's going to look like when it's through. It's on Billy Hext Road. We're really excited. Another building that will open in June, and very much needed facility for our quality people and the growth of the Odessa market, especially in trust. Weatherford, let me talk about some of the other things that we're doing in the company. As we bought banks, you know, a bank had to have bookkeeping, and they had to have technology, and they had to have all the backroom stuff. Well, as we buy banks, that's no longer needed because that's all centralized. But we have these huge buildings that we're using probably a half of that are hard to remodel and, you know, just don't fit the needs of banking today. And so this is one of those buildings that was way too large for us. So what we've done is sold this building to the county, which is right across the street. It's a perfect deal for them to have the extra space. And what we've done is moved in to our College Park. We remodeled College Park. And when you go by, this is on South Main. So we have a location on North Main. We still have our drive-ins downtown, and we have this facility on South Main where our downtown people moved into this facility. What that does is it saves us a lot of money long term, and we utilize 100% of the building. And it's much better for our customers and customer service. Here's another one, San Angelo, a beautiful building that was built many years ago and was probably too big when it was built by Texas Capital or Texas Commerce Bank. But today we're using very little of this building because we don't need all that space. So we have sold this building to the city of San Angelo, and we're building this building a block away where our drive-ins were. So we'll have a brand new state-of-the-art with drive-in and teller lines back to back, which is exactly what you need. Less cost because we're not heating and cooling a huge building, and it'll, again, meet the needs of our customers much better. Same thing in Orange. We are in the process of selling this building to the city of Orange so they can utilize it. And what's neat is these municipalities need the space, and we're gifting and selling, so they're getting a great deal on the building, and we'll slip over next door to this and build a new building. So again, that's our philosophy, is to have updated state-of-the-art buildings across the board. Okay, talk about management enhancements. One of the things that I talked about several years ago and that we continue to work on is making ourselves better every day. We have to remake ourselves, and that's what we're doing. And this is a list of people that have come to the bank and have brought their expertise, and I just want to talk through why we've done what we've done and kind of what they bring. And I've got some notes here so I won't miss kind of the scoop behind this group, because it's really important to understand. In January last year, we hired Stan Limerick. He's Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer. He's head of all technology. He comes with 37 years of technology experience, a degree in technology from UT Dallas, extensive knowledge on Jack Henry, our core system. So having that expertise is extremely important. In May 2015, we hired Randy Rowe, Executive Vice President and Chief Risk Officer. When you get to the $10 billion mark, you have to have a Chief Risk Officer. And you say, what does a Chief Risk Officer do? Well, they look at every risk that we have in the bank and make sure that we have those holes plugged. But Randy comes to us from the OCC, where he was a national bank examiner for 24 years. And that experience has helped us tremendously. The other thing I like is he was the examiner in charge for USAA, the largest bank in Texas. So that experience is helping us know how to become better at what we do and how to get bigger. Then we talked about, in June 2015, Troy Ford came and is now president of First Financial Bank Mortgage Division. Troy has 31 years in the mortgage business, which we needed that expertise, and 15 years of running his own company. So that has helped us tremendously because we want to grow mortgage. Mortgage is a very important part of the company, along with trust. In August 2015, Luke Longhofer got promoted. Now, Luke's been with the bank for 6 years. Before that was 7 years at the FDIC as a bank examiner. Luke's done a very good job for us, and now is working with Marna Juergen and Gary Gregg in overseeing lending throughout our footprint. Very important part. And Luke's one of those young ones in our company. In February 2016, we promoted Trent Swearingen, president of our Stephenville region. Trent's been at the bank 17 years, started in the loan review department, and has moved up. You'll hear this theme over and over again of the people that started at the bank and never left. And what you're seeing is us bring new people in and bringing our younger group up the ladder to be ready to fill the positions for growth. Another, David Bailey, that same month took Trent's position in Eastland as president of our Eastland division. Now here's a guy. David started working for us 13 years ago when he was at school at McMurray University and has never left. He's moved up the ladder. He was a teller and now is the president of a bank. So we're really excited about that. And in March 2016, we hired Barry Wellens, Executive Vice President of Retail Services. We've never had somebody in charge of retail. but we felt like we needed more strength in our retail division as we grow. Barry brought 19 years of retail banking experience from some of the big boys, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, BBVA, and so we're excited about having Barry's expertise there. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. As you see these press releases, we're strengthening our management team to get ready to continue to grow. And talking about growing, here's our returns for the last 5 years. But what's good in this is the 5-year compounded average return for the last 5 years has been 13.95%. It's one of those things we want to continue to do for you, is give you a good return. And this is how, the red line is us. This is how we've compared to the S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow. We don't ever forget that we are here working for you, our stockholders. And we have to give you a good return. You know what I tell our employees in new employee orientation? I say, what happens, I ask them the question, what happens if we don't give our stockholders a good return? And the answer is, they'll sell us. And most of the jobs will go away, so they take it very personally that they do a good job, and they remember that they work for you. Here's our dividends per share. We've gone from 48 cents up to 62 cents a year. And because of our good performance, the board has voted to increase that dividend by 2 cents to 18 cents per quarter, which is a 12.5% raise that you're getting, and you'll get that in the next quarter. The dividend in 2016 will be 70 cents, and on an annualized basis, be 72 cents, and it'll be those shareholders of record from on June 16th, and the dividend will be paid July 1st. So we hope you're pleased with that decision. We always want to send you home with something, and I don't want to be up here the year we don't. So that's the story of what's going on at the bank today. Does anybody have any questions? All right. What we'll do is, as we've done in the past, we have lunch ready for you in the conference center, and there'll be people to guide you over there. I want to say especially to all of you, thank you for coming to this meeting, because this is a stockholders meeting. It is not a stockholders luncheon. The luncheon is the icing on the cake. And so thank you for coming, because we want you not just to eat, but to learn about the company and what's going on in the company. So there'll be people to guide you over there. Those of you that don't feel comfortable about going through the buffet line, just sit down. We have our First Financial people there that will serve you. You don't have to juggle the plates if you don't want to. You'll probably eat faster if you get through the line, but we will make sure you get a plate. We'll make sure you're served. And we'll talk a little bit more about the company as we're over there. Thank you for being here today. We're adjourned. That's good.